And so you don't have to have a Twitter account to get the lectures. But if you have a Twitter account, all you have to do is, oh, and you need to add this. Do you guys see that where it says EA Snipes _ that's not on your syllabus. So it's EA Snipes _ CHM165. So if you have Twitter or don't have Twitter, you just go out there and it's like friending me, right? So I'll see you friended me. It's kind of like Facebook. But then whenever I post anything to the Twitter feed, it'll automatically come up and you'll see it. So other things I post to the Twitter feed are just general announcements like what the assignment is. Honestly, when we get rolling, about every time we meet in here for lecture, you'll get an assignment. Yay! And so I kind of post it on Twitter feed for myself, too, to know when I assigned it. So sometimes students are like, well, what did you assign? I'm like, well, let me check my Twitter feed. So we're in here Monday, Wednesday, Friday for 50 minutes or so. On Thursdays, so tomorrow we're just gonna check into lab. So it'll be room 512 tomorrow. If you haven't been down to the lab, you're gonna see that it's got that 1950s feel. I don't know, maybe I'm exaggerating, but it feels old. You see all the construction they're doing over here for the Intech. Actually, we're next, the labs are next on the list to get upgraded, so that'll be nice. So tomorrow we'll be down there. It shouldn't take the whole time. But if you know somebody in the class, be thinking maybe they'd be a lab partner with them. I'd go in groups of 2s or 3s for the semester. Pick somebody smart. So somebody safe. So the textbook we're using is a big, thick one, a big white one. Now, y'all have come a long way. Students have come a long way since when I used to always have to get my books at the bookstore. And I'm just saying that there are alternatives out there to getting them through. Like, for instance,
Yes, there are.
Yes.
I bought my textbook on Amazon for $25.
Okay, I don't know if you heard that. It's going to make you sad, maybe.
And it's in very good condition.
But he bought the Petrucci text for $25. I think Petrucci is coming out with a new edition next year. Good job, by the way. So, yeah.
So we bought this year, so that could be.
So Sellback, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a classic. It's held its value, but yeah, they're coming out with a new edition. So, I'm sorry. But
Yeah, I got mine for like 30.
30, where'd you get yours from?
Amazon.
Amazon?
Yeah.
So it's a thought.
You still have until the 9th to return these, right?
That's true. That's true. You can, and I'm not saying that that's what you should necessarily do, but yeah, you can return them for full refund without any explanation required.
What's today's date?
By what day?
9th of September?
Yes.
Here.
You have Amazon.
Yep. Actually, that's on this thing. I think I have the 7th, so I don't know. You might want to check that 9th. So I don't know.
Is this still enough time?
It is. And that's a chunk of change. I had another student today who's taking A&P and anatomy physiology, and she said she paid $378.
Yeah, this was like 200 or so. At the source.
See, what gets you is if you have to use a student loan, to buy your books or whatever,
You're tied into where
Yeah.
you get them from?
then you can only use the bookstore, because I asked them if I could use another source and to tap into that money because it's already here at the school, and they won't release it. So,
Oh, you asked about the new edition? Or?
no, I asked about if I purchased my books like online or something, if I could use the student loan money for my school books.
Makes sense.
And they said, no, you have to do it at the bookstore. Cha-ching.
Yeah. We're lucky though. I mean, if you look at, when's that copyright? Is it like, it's several years ago. I know sometimes textbooks have a revolving door like 3 years. And this one at least is,
2007.
what's that?
It's just 2011.
2011, so
5
5 years, yeah.
Is this the one, there was a new book and a used book, and the new book had like software attached to the back of it, the used one didn't? Or is
It
a different
could be. I
class?
think the new Petrucci has like it does come with a disc, I think.
Okay, do we need that?
You don't need the disc, no. But the disc has some kind of neat little animations, and I think the new ones come with like a online kind of tutorials and stuff. So,
You can usually get those separate for like $30 or $40 if you're interested in spending that much.
yeah. I didn't know about this world till our daughter was like, she started doing the whole textbook thing, so. The other thing, when you're at the bookstore, not you. The other thing when you're at the bookstore, you need actually 2 bound things. One of them are the notes, and one of them's for lab. So, and those you can't get through Amazon. I think they're like, are they 20 a piece?
I think everything came out to like $46, including
Okay.
goggles.
Okay. Yes, and you will need goggles. So I brought in mine. Now I've got some that were left over from other students. So, and the thing about the goggles is they can't be directly vented. So the ventilation for these actually come over across the top. So here's the ventilation for these. So, yeah, like I said, I've got some extra ones. Any questions about goggles? Okay.
Any other requirements for lab?
Goggles and for lab, you also need to always bring, not tomorrow, but always bring this is like your lab notebook. Yeah. So it's a composition book, and they come in pretty different colors. And mine says Mrs. Snipes. When I came through and got my degree in chemistry, my first section was general chemistry, then organic chemistry, and analytical chemistry, physical chemistry. So I did it all in one. So, we're only going to use up. So anyway, but you'll need, the thing that these are, you can't tear them out. Well, you can tear them out, but then, of course, there's evidence that you tore out a page. So in research, that's what they do. Okay? You have to be able to know it's intact. So you'll need one of these, not for tomorrow, but for, and the goggle thing you're going to see tomorrow if there's anything that strikes your fancy. So, okay?
Will we have any required reading on Friday?
I don't really assign reading, and I'm going to kind of tell you how that works. I just, in your lecture notes, in the first page of your lecture notes for each unit is basically what I call a lecture guide, and that kind of shows you the roadmap. So I don't assign any reading, but you can see what topic we cover in lecture versus where it is at in the textbook.
I was gonna return this.
Oh, yeah.
I was
Yeah.
gonna make sure, I need it on Friday.
Yeah, I think you'll be fine. And if there is an assignment for students who are just still trying to get their textbook in at the beginning of the semester, if there's an assignment, I can even kind of float you the assignment. You know what I'm
Awesome.
saying?
Cool.
Just to kind of get you by.
There could be 2 of us.
2 of you? Okay. And if I don't, remind me or whatever. I'll just do a screenshot of the assignment. Let's do. Yeah, because there's a good chance Friday, this is Wednesday, there's a good chance Friday we'll get to an assignment. So that'll be due Monday. Okay? Yes.
What is roughly going to be the pace of the class, and how many chapters do you think we're going to cover in the
The
semester?
pace of the class, it varies a little bit, but chapters we're gonna cover, I think we cover the first, I wanna say 6 is gases, I think, so maybe the first 6, and then Petrucci, and then that's the picking up after 6, maybe it's chapter 7, but general chemistry 2 then would be in the spring, and we use the same textbook.
Right.
So, yeah. And if you want to kind of know, you can kind of skip ahead to Unit 5. Yeah.
Didn't occur to me that this was,
Yeah. So each unit has kind of a roadmap
okay.
of what we're doing. Does that work? Okay. So we talked about goggles. We talked about the notebook. You're also going to need a calculator. And if you're like me, your calculator probably, these are like wonderful, but you can't use them on a test. Anything that's programmable, you can't for obvious reasons because I can download things. Most students say, I don't know how to download anything to a calculator. But,
I have a Mac, so I can't.
oh, okay.
But,
Okay. If it's programmable.
yeah.
TI makes a wonderful calculator, TI 30X, I want to say, TI 30. It's wonderful. It's not programmable and it has the feel of so. But I will tell you that I got this at the Dollar Tree. Guess how much I paid for it? Yeah. As you probably know, in science we need to use scientific notation. So your calculator needs to be able to handle scientific notation. So you look for the EXP or the EE key or the SCI key. And I think there's a fourth one, I just can't think of it right now. Okay. So that's, it'll just have one of those. I don't have all three of them. It does have a strange calculator. Okay, it looks like we're doing good. If you forget your calculator for an exam, I usually bring in I've got, you know, those little dollar ones I bring in, so that works. All right. Okay, electronic storage device. I'll try to remember to give you a heads up when we're doing this in the lab. Actually, before all of our labs on Thursdays, you will have to do a pre-lab exercise. So before all of our labs, before you step your foot in the door to do your lab on Thursday, you are familiar with the lab, which is wonderful. But some labs are going to need a little storage device, the USB kind. Okay, so okay. Now this class does have a prerequisite. You need to have algebra under your belt, and every once in a while I have students that math isn't their thing. But the biggest thing I need we use the factor label method, if you're familiar with it. Basically all it does, and once I show you, you're probably like, oh, that's what that is. But basically, if I have 5/3, and I'm going to multiply that by 3/2, and I'm going to multiply that by 2. Okay? Of course, we use parentheses to kind of show we're multiplying those three terms together. Is there a way I can simplify that?
You can cross divide those.
I can cross divide. Is this what you mean?
Yes.
This goes away, yep,
Mhm.
and this goes away. You see how if it's in the numerator and the denominator, it cancels. That's the biggest thing about algebra I need you to know. Okay? So what would this reduce to?
5.
I'm liking it. Okay, so that's kind of the biggest thing in algebra. Okay. So this class, general chemistry, it's actually inorganic chemistry in some institutions. General chemistry for like the University of Iowa is a weed out class oftentimes, which means that, and you asked about the pace, it goes pretty fast once we get going. You just got to hang on and ride it. You guys will do great, okay? The biggest thing for your success is to, you mentioned reading. Reading's a good thing. Keeping up with your homework's really good. Understanding as you go along. If you don't understand anything, here's my plug, that you all are a small class. You know, feel free to come by my office or get a group of you guys. Go have pizza. So, okay? We can do this. It's broken up into 5 units, and we'll have 4 unit exams, okay? So, oh, I guess we do more than I thought. We skip around a little bit. Chapter 12 of gases. So you can kind of see what chapters we'll be dealing with and what we'll be covering there for each unit. Broad course goals. As I said, this is a standard class. It's my goal to not torture you, but to make you ready to step into whatever you're going to step into after you take general chemistry. Okay, whether it's general chemistry 1 and 2 or just 1. Okay, so it's, I say universal, but it's definitely lines up with the regions. Okay, so etiquette, lecture etiquette, it's just kind of like you would think. Every once in a while I have an issue with an ongoing cell phone issue, and that's gotten so hard, you know. I've been teaching 15 years, and 15 years ago not everybody had a cell phone. If you're expecting a call, you can tell me, you know, hey, I'm expecting a call, I might need to leave. But don't carry on a conversation in your lap while lecture's going on, okay? If that happens, and I'll try not to like put anybody on the spot, but if that happens, I'll just kind of say, could you take that text? What?
There's the door. No.
There's the door. I know, right? So I'll try to be subtle about if that happens. Okay, so attendance, I'll take attendance each day. Cheating, don't do it. It breaks my heart. There'll be 4 unit exams. Now, makeup exams, every teacher needs to know or have something in their syllabus. What do I do when life happens and you can't make it for one of your 4 unit exams? And this is how I handle it. I don't have makeup exams. But what I do for everybody is in December, when you take your final, your comprehensive final, okay, your comprehensive final in December, I compare it to your 4 unit exams, and if it's in your best interest, I will substitute that percentage you earn for your lowest unit exam, so it will count twice. Okay, and that includes missing an exam. So that's how I handle that. All right, homework. So about every time we meet, there's going to be an assignment, and the assignments are nice. They're actually in your slides. So I'll say an assignment slide coming up, and there'll be a slide that says assignment on it. Okay. So assignments are always due the next time we come to meet for lecture. The thing about y'all is it's due at the beginning of the period, not by close of business on my day, because about 3 p.m. is usually, unless somebody needs or wants to meet with me afterwards, I'm headed home. Okay, 3, 4, so. Any questions about that? So that kind of catches students off guard sometimes. You have to have it ready when you. Good thing is though, is I have like an hour-and-a-half window before this class at 2 o'clock, so you can actually come by my office if you have last-minute questions about your homework. But probably about 1:30 or so, I'm switching gears trying to get ready for a lecture. So, does that make sense? Okay. My door's open, but I kind of get antsy. All right. Dun-dun-dun. Oh, I increased this. So, see, it says, with regard to homework, in December, when I go to look at your grades, I'm going to look at your 20% lowest homework, and I'm just going to bump them up to 10s. So that's quite a bit. Got it. Okay, so lab. Lab, we're going to meet tomorrow. We're going to meet every Thursday. Now, some Thursdays, and I should talk about this right quick because I think it's a good thing. When it comes time for your unit exams, those are going to be given on a Thursday. So Thursdays, when you have a unit exam, it will be from 1 to 3, your unit exams on that Thursday, and you won't have to do lab. Now, my exams are meant to be taken in an hour, but that gives you 2 hours. Okay, so it's not like, oh my gosh, she doubled things, she ratcheted it in, but no, it's just for an hour, but you can have 2.
Will we still do this in the lab room, or will we?
I'll secure a room. That's a good question. Yeah, I think you're going to see tomorrow, if you haven't been in there, the stools are kind of uncomfortable. I wouldn't want to take a test in there. But I'm usually pretty good about finding a room for, you would think I could find a room on Thursdays at 1. So lab. And I'm going to talk about how you earn your lab credit other than not blowing up the place, okay? When you do a lab, you're going to write a semi-formal lab report. And that semi-formal lab report, it'll need to be typed, and it has a specific format and everything, so I'll try to kind of talk you through that. Tomorrow, actually, I think I'll remember to give you like a checklist for your semi-formal lab reports. That's what I use to grade your lab reports. So, and those will always be due the next Thursday we come, okay? And that's the end of the day, so. And Thursday, I'm here till, I have a night class, so I'm here till 7:30. Okay? Okay with that? eCompanion, anybody here use like the HawkNet, the online component for a class here? Okay, good. So teachers have access, if you go to your HawkNet, anybody, who knows what HawkNet is? Let's see, are we all okay with HawkNet? Oh, good. Not yet? Okay. So if you, when you go to HawkNet, you'll see actually an online button. So if you click the online button, then for every teacher, if you're enrolled in an online class, it'll show up there. And if your teacher has an online component with their class, it'll show up. So this will show up there for you guys. So what I use it for is, and I think I'll show you, not today, but some other time. What I use it for is mostly the gradebook and to post exam keys. So special needs, keep me posted if there's anything I could know about that would make the semester better for you, because that's what I'm here for, other than giving you the A and calling it good. Tempting, I know. Okay. Let's see, grading. Okay. Okay, so those assignments that I'm gonna drop, 20% of your assignments are worth 10% of your grade. I got that. Remember I said that you'll be reading the lab right before you come into lab? Okay. There is a section, I'll try to remind you, maybe tomorrow if I think about it, but when you get your lab manuals, the first part are the labs, and near the back is actually another section for pre-lab questions. So each lab has a sheet for pre-lab questions, and you need to answer those before you come to lab. Okay. So that's worth 5% of your grade. 20% of your grade would be when I grade your semi-formal lab reports, and then your unit exams worth collectively 45%, and your comprehensive finals worth a fifth. Okay. All right then, just a little bit about your, lab. So we'll meet each Thursday. And item number 1 says I'm gonna drop a lab, so I don't do makeup labs, but I do drop a lab. Number 2 is I'm gonna pair you up with groups of 2 or 3 tomorrow. And if your lab partner doesn't come for a lab, then we'll kind of rearrange, so you won't be working by yourself. Number 3 says that if you're running late for lab more than 10 minutes, don't bother. Because the thing about lab is before we start the lab, I talk about safety, I talk about the chemistry of the lab, I talk about kind of what your semi-formal lab report, what it should include. So that's a lot in the first 10 minutes. So if you miss that, just don't come. Number 4 goes back to these, okay? Not only, we shouldn't tear things out, though I have seen students do that. But this says if you make a mistake, basically, you're supposed to not obscure it, simply draw a line through it, initial it, and date it. Okay, that's what they do in R&D labs. Always use pen, okay, here. So, let's see, safety we'll talk about for each lab. Number 6 I already mentioned, number 7, I think that'll be fine. I'll let you know if we have kind of carryover labs. Number 8 says that I actually take 2 topics, and I don't know if you're probably already familiar with something called nomenclature, how you name compounds. I take lab time to knock that out, because that's something I think really needs that kind of hands-on. The other dry lab I do is Lewis structures. I don't know if you're familiar with making kind of what do molecules look like. So we'll do that during the Thursday too. Those are dry labs. They are fun. Keep your area neat. Let's see. Number 11, I've never done a final lab exam, but no, I just leave it there. Number 12, so between the 5% for your pre-lab and the 20% for your semi-formal lab reports that I grade, that's kind of where that 25% comes from. Some colleges break the lab component out separate from the lecture. So you get a lab grade and a lecture grade. So, all right. But I think we're kind of, it's nice here at SEC because you have the same instructor for lectures you do for lab. A lot of times that's not the case. Let's see, do I have? Yes. Okay, so this is something you're going to want to dig out when it comes time to write your semi-formal lab reports. This attachment or whatever is also in your lab manual. Okay, so I think it's in the front page of your lab manuals. So it needs to be typed, double-spaced, and these are all little check marks. So there's like 1 point there, 2 points there, You only have 10 points for your whole lab report, so you don't want to be missing points. You're going to have 3 sections. You're going to have a summary, and I think the summary actually is 3 sections in and of itself, but the summary is the blah, blah, blah. The summary includes the purpose, your experimental section, what you did, and the summary also includes results and discussions, the resultant discussion. And then you have calculations, and for each lab I tell you what calculations to do, so that's the second section. Calculations, as you might imagine, are hard to type up, so calculations, in case I don't mention it, feel free to use black pen, okay, for your calculations. Experimental data, I'll go ahead and tell you right now, that's gonna be a Xerox copy of this, okay, the pertinent pages out of this. And then as far as your lab, your lab notebooks go, I like the way the lab manuals are set up, because at the end of each experiment actually tells you how this is supposed to be laid out. So what you'll do is you'll see, it'll kind of have headings, and I'll have a heading that'll say x.xxx, and that's the measurement you're gonna make. So oftentimes students, they'll go ahead and fill this out before they come to lab, so. Does that work? Very good. Okay, so the summary, like I said, I think it's 3 sections. I'll go ahead and write them down. Summary should be your purpose. Okay, and that'll be short. I'll go ahead and put short. It'll be your experimental. And usually that's past tense, third person, if possible. If you don't know what those are, ask an English teacher. Third person means you avoid the word I, and past tense means it's what you did, okay? I'll put, this is A, this is B, okay? And a lot of times students forget C, but C is so important. C is your results and discussion. So this is all typed, unlike the other 2 sections. Typed, double-spaced. Sometimes students say, do I need a cover page? No. You have your name on there somewhere. The results and discussion, oftentimes you can pull out if you see what your key results were. So like the first experiment you're going to do, I think I'm getting this right, first and second one, you're going to actually do a little bit of statistics and see how reproducible you are at pipetting a certain volume. Okay, so you're going to get a relative standard deviation. So to me, that how you performed, relative standard deviation, should be something that shows up here in so many words. Okay, calculations, like this says, they don't have to be typed. Calculations, you can use a black, it has to be ink though, it could be dark black or blue. Calculations needs actually everything. One side of the paper though, sometimes, and actually you're going to see that on the checklist I gave you tomorrow. Only one side. And if you print out at the lab up here, sometimes that's easier said than done, because it wants to kind of go. Okay, so you want to say this is this. This is Chem 165, and in the spring 175. What inorganic chemistry means is basically chemistry of elements, and it does not emphasize carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen. Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen are usually reserved for those compounds are organic chemistry. And actually kind of listed here in order, the first 4 is if you get a degree in chemistry, that's kind of the order that you would take the chemistry classes in. Okay, so chemistry is is as close as we can do, kind of look at how atoms are behaving. Okay, it's a look at matter on the atomic level. Okay, we study atoms of different elements, and we got this. You guys are probably familiar with this over here. We have a periodic table in here. Of course, each one of those boxes is a different element. And you probably remember that the elements all just vary by the number of protons they have in their nuclei. I think that is so cool. So those atoms get together to maybe make compounds, maybe be by themselves a pure substance in their elemental form. And the study of them is chemistry. So what makes up matter is atoms. Atoms make up matter. And atoms will always have mass, and atoms will always occupy space. So matter is anything is made of atoms that have mass and occupy space. So I kind of like this little logic tree. And this here in part 1, we're going to make sure we're all on the same page with regard to classifying matter. So all matter is made up of atoms. But those atoms, quite frankly, could be, and I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to say pure substance, Those atoms could be what we call a pure substance. Now notice, pure substances can either be the pure element, or they can be the atoms of different elements that are arranged in a repeating unit we call a compound. The other type of, if it's not a pure substance, it is a mixture. Okay, so what is a mixture is two or more substances. And already we're into substance, and pure substance is the same thing. It's almost, if you say pure substance, it makes more sense than just substance, I think. But so two or more pure substances. And the cool thing about a mixture is that they are just physically combined. I'll go ahead and add that up there. They're physically combined. They're like tossing a salad. No new bonds or anything are formed, okay? So of course you're going to want to get these under your belt too. There are different types of mixtures. There's the ones that are well mixed. We call that homogeneous or homogeneous. And then heterogeneous, I call it chunky. Okay. Yep. Okay, so that's kind of how we classify matter. This whole part between today and I really think we'll probably finish up tomorrow, or Friday in lecture. But we need to be able to do all this stuff at the end of part 1. Kind of what we just talked about a minute ago, and I'm not done talking about it, but remember you can go left and get pure substances or a mixture. That's what matter is. Of course, if it's a pure substance, it's either an element or a compound. We're going to talk about chemical properties. Okay, and if you're not familiar with these terms, I'm going to kind of go over them, and you can read your textbook. But we have intensive or extensive chemical properties, physical or chemical properties. Wow, this one right here, what do you think? I think it should go back up right there. So anyway. So again, this is kind of review, so I'll try not to belabor it. But anytime there on the left you see substances and pure substances, those are synonyms. They can either be an element or a compound. Okay. Mixtures then are two or more pure substances that are just kind of tossed together. Homogeneous means it's the same throughout, and heterogeneous means it's chunky. So what do you think? Oh, it's already in there. If I told you the one on the left was water and it was blue, you're like, no, water is not blue, so it must have something else in it. And it looks well mixed, so that, of course, that's a homogeneous mixture. Okay? And then sand, well, that sand anyway, how can you tell it's kind of chunky?
There's separation between the colors of the size of the grains too.
Exactly, the size of the grains and separation in the color, exactly. Color is a very good property. A property is just something how to understand or gauge what a substance is. So you're like, yeah. Okay, so yeah. Again, if I were to say this is water and it's yellow, you're like, okay, then it must not be pure water. It's an aqueous solution of potassium chromate. And then this one, why do we think that this is heterogeneous? Chunks, yeah, it's not the same throughout. I worked at Roquette a long while back, but they have these like little kind of thieves, like a sample thief. There's different ways to get a representative sample, and I kind of think of something like this. If I were to take a core of this, it would not, and I pull it out, it would not be the same. Okay, so an element, hopefully we're all thinking left, right? Left, correct? So an element is a type of pure substance, right? And what this says is, so an element is made up all of the same type of atoms. So like if you play with aluminum foil, I was thinking about that the other day, aluminum foil, think of aluminum atoms, a sheet of aluminum atoms. They're not like one atom thick, I mean it's thicker than that, but they're all aluminum atoms. And you can't take a magic wand and make it into anything other than aluminum atoms. So elements, and I'm going to go back to the periodic table. These are examples of some elements. Now, in my introduction to general chemistry, I would maybe take this list and have them, you need to know, for instance, Cu is copper. Mg is the symbol for magnesium. Let's see, K is the symbol for potassium, yep. That's where my introduction to general chemistry, that's one of the tasks we do. You guys won't have that luxury. So they get tested over it. So one of the things that I'll mention is like for iron, it's Fe, so it's case sensitive. If there are 2 letters to make the symbol for that element, then the second one is lowercase. So, all right, some pictures.
When we're naming, will we use ferrous ferric or will we use 2 and 3?
I prefer 2 and 3 because I can remember ferrous and ferric. I'm like, but if you use the old name nomenclature, I'll cross-reference it. He's talking about iron can have at least 2 oxidation states, and so here we have some elements. Okay, so a compound is the other pure substance, but a compound is different than an element because it has at least 2 atoms, and they're 2 atoms of different elements that are stuck together to make a compound. Now, you can go ahead and break it. So I think I have an example coming up here. Okay, so of course for compounds we use a chemical formula to describe what atoms are connected together in that repeating units. One of the things, have you guys ever seen this? This is one of my pet peeves. Like this whole H2O. Does that not drive you crazy? They put it like as a superscript. I'm like, how awful. Okay. So, unlike elements, compounds can be broken down. You can take a magic wand, and I think I have a picture coming up of a couple pictures of how you can break a compound down. So, for instance, and I'm not going to play this animation, but this is mercury 2 oxide. I'll play it for you later, I think. But this is mercury 2 oxide, and what does this look like? Can you tell? The top of a... Yes, it's the top of a Bunsen burner. Yep. So here, if we heat magnesium oxide, what gas do you think escapes?
Imagine oxygen gas.
It is oxygen gas, exactly. So we can break the bonds between the repeating unit and the oxygen goes off. This is another one. This is like been in the news here and there as we talk about going to the moon or something like that. Okay. This is how you can make hydrogen out of water, by passing electrical current through H2O. So here we have the battery making an electrical current through the water. And here we have, so red, white, white. Which one's oxygen? What do you think? The red one's oxygen. Yep. The red one's oxygen. The 2 white ones are hydrogen, exactly. And they're showing 2 gases being produced up here. We have, and we'll talk about why this is, but you probably already know. I never know what you know. But oxygen is what we call an element that's a diatomic element, so it never runs around as a single oxygen atom. Here under Earth conditions of pressure and temperature, you're always going to see it as O2. So that'll be coming up later. All sorts of things come up later. So this is O2. Well, what's this then?
H2.
It is H2. H2. A little subscript there means the 2 hydrogens are stuck together in that repeating unit. Okay. Cool. Where are we at? This is yeah, I'm going to hold off on this one and we'll pick up here. Time has flown. I think we get out of here at 10 till, don't we?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So good chance we'll whip through this. We usually don't go this fast for more difficult material. So, see everybody.